Hey guys, it's Adam Levitan here at Fantasy Labs. No, we're at Fantasy Labs because we have Peter's cut off forehead right here. Today I'm going to be talking about two separate things, or actually two things somewhat related. And the first one is being unique with Fantasy Labs. And if you watched my last video, talked a lot about how to be unique using the trends tool. So you can go back and find that. Today I'm going to be talking about how to be unique using the models, and I'm also going to be talking about that in conjunction with late season NBA. I think that late season NBA has frustrated a lot of people, has been difficult just because we're dealing with so many unknown guys and so much news and so much value every night. We work on lineups all day, and then at 6 o'clock, we blow them up. And I understand that's frustrating. I think we kind of have to adjust our mindset. I mean, think about last night, Monday night, just as an example. I mean, we had Seth Curry, Omri Caspi, Willie Cauley-Stein, Costa Kufis, all in situations that we hadn't seen them in before. You know, without Gay, Cousins, and Rondo. We had Josh Richardson playing extended minutes at point guard. I mean, we hadn't seen a lot of that before. We had Boban starting. We had the Berea Felton situation. We had all the Spurs stuff with, I already mentioned Boban and Kyle Anderson. So getting our heads around this is a different beast than a normal night in the NBA, you know, let's say 2 or 3 months ago, where if one of those guys was in play, it was just easy. Yeah, just play them. You know, I mean, we had a guy projected for 30 minutes at 3,500. We play them. But in this situation, when we have so many, it's a little bit more difficult. So here I am at the homepage. I'm just going to go to NBA. And I'm going to go to player models. All right, so here is the fan model for DraftKings. Now, I know a lot of people will just go into this model and they will say, oh, I'm going to go through position by position and I'm going to play the top plays at each position. That's a surefire way to not be unique, especially if you're trying to make tournament lineups. So, one way that I think can really help us be unique and help us in late season is to make our own model. So, we go here to player models, we go to add, and I'm going to call this late season. So, basically, what I'm doing here is I'm building my own model using all of these things down the right side here. I have 100 points to use, and this is going to be my weights. How much do I want to weight each of these things? So before we start, I want to think about what it means to be playing late season NBA. And I already mentioned it a little bit. What I want to weight here is not past performance, because how relevant is Seth Curry's past performance when he was playing with Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins? I mean, in those situations, he rarely gets the ball. But in a situation where those guys are going to be out and Rondo's going to be out too, we know Seth Curry, we know Omri Caspi, we know Collison are in different situations. And same thing goes for Josh Richardson. You know, how much does his past performance matter when he was previously playing backup wing spot a lot, now that he's starting at point guard? So I want to use forward-looking projections. I want to weight those heavily more in my late season model. So bargain rating is always going to be a little bit important to me. I want to make sure that I'm using guys on the correct site where they're cheaper. So I'm going to give that 5 points. Vegas score is always going to be a little bit important to me. I want to talk about over-unders. I want to talk about line moves. I want to talk about spreads. All that stuff is always going to be important. Opponent rating is just the matchup. How good is the matchup for a player? And I think that is not as important now. We see situations like the Spurs resting everybody. Is it really the Spurs, the Grizzlies with so many injuries? Is it really the Grizzlies? So I'm only going to give that 3 points. Now we start getting into the meat of what I want to be weighted on, projected points per dollar. And Justin does a great job with his projections, and obviously projected point per dollar is the basis of what I want to be talking about. I want the highest value for my money. So I'm going to go ahead and give that 25. Not as worried about floor here. Floor late in the season, yeah, floor is calculated a lot based on what we've seen in the past. And we've seen guys like Josh Richardson and Seth Curry and Kyle Anderson have really low floors, but that was a completely different situation. So I'm going to leave that at 0. Projected plus minus just means how much their salary is over projection. And that's really important. I mean, it's very similar to points per dollar, but I want to weight that a lot also. So I'm going to go ahead and give that 25 points as well. Median projection, I'm going to leave at 0. Very difficult to make a median projection this time of year. Justin's doing a great job with it. It's just very difficult to pinpoint this number here, this projection here, exactly. Very, very difficult. Projected ceiling and projected floor, I'm going to give a little bit to, mostly because I play mostly cash and I want to have a little bit of floor on there. And since I play a lot of head-to-heads, I'm actually going to give ceiling a little bit more. I'm going to give that 9. Pro trends, always something that I've factor in this column right here. Talked about that in a video previously, how valuable that stuff is. Month salary change, that is a good thing in the models is if it goes down, but we see guys gaining roles late in the season. Like I think Willie Cauley-Stein is an example where George Karl has backed off of his just sort of insane approach about limiting Cauley-Stein because he's a rookie or he's not ready or whatever. So of course Cauley-Stein's salary is going to go up, so I'm going to leave that at 0. Long-term value talked about, not that important to me at this time of year, what they've done throughout the year. Consistency is important. How often do guys dud out, basically? So I'm going to go ahead and give that 10. And then upside is always going to be important to me as somebody who plays a lot of head-to-heads. I want a chance to sweep all my head-to-heads. So I've used 100 out of 100 points. This is just off the top of my head. Not saying this is the most accurate late season model, etc. This is just off the top of my head, something that I weight. You guys should be going in here and weighting what you think is the most important late in the season. And by hitting update here, which I'm going to do in a second, I create a unique model based on all these sliders that only I have. Only I have this model. So if somebody comes to you and says, oh, you have FantasyLabs, that's great. Everybody else in the world also has FantasyLabs, which isn't true. But anyways, you can tell them, well, yeah, maybe everybody else has FantasyLabs, but not everybody else has my late season model, or not everybody else has my trends that I go to every night and see who spits out as fitting. So I'll go ahead and hit update here. Okay, so now I have my own late season model here that I'm going to use in conjunction with some of the other models. So I'll look at this. This is very early in the day, so none of the projections have been updated yet by Justin. So I wouldn't take anything yet. I would start to look at this around 3 or 4 p.m. But just for the sake of our conversation here, in my model, James Harden, Westbrook, Brooke Lopez, Cody Zeller, Derrick Rose, etc. come up as good plays. And then maybe I'll also open and maybe I'll also go look at the fan model. So also very similar here, plays at the top. So I think that being unique is important, and I use my own models and my own trends to get there. And also I think adjusting what you're doing for late in the season, not just in your head, but also in the models, is really important. All right, hope that helps as we grind down towards the end of the NBA season. As always, if you have any questions about using all this stuff or anything you'd like to see me do a video on in the future, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, ajl201@yahoo.com. So for Jerry, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.